right, hey everybody. So I'm Amanda, and I'm from Scott's Miracle-Gro. I want to give you a little background about our company. So we've been selling fertilizer for 150 years. We actually did not acquire Miracle-Gro or kind of any of our other brands until the 90s. So the past 20 years, we've been acquiring kind of a group of brands. So Ortho, Roundup, Tomcat, you probably are familiar with some of those brands. And we've also expanded into the hydroponic business, so think of Hawthorne. And just recently, this past year, we're actually expanding into the digitally native realm. So launching digitally native brands as well as going into subscription models. So a lot of new stuff on the horizon for us, but we still have our core brands, Scott's, Miracle-Gro, Fert and Dirt. So I want to talk to you about inbox placement and deliverability today. So we all know this. It was talked about yesterday. 99.9% of emails that get delivered to spam, they never get opened. So if you don't make it to the inbox, nothing else matters. You might have a really catchy subject line. You might have a creative design. You've got a promo product code that, you want to sell your products. Well, that consumer never received that message, so you're not going to make revenue, and you're not going to get that communication out. If you don't make it to the inbox, you can't build a relationship with your consumer. So it kind of comes back down to, well, deliverability is really complex. It's hard, and the reason it's hard is because there are a lot of things that factor into it. So when you think of, having a clean list, we've got DCAM, DMARC you have to consider, making sure that your IP is warm. There's so many different things that factor into it. Super confusing. I will tell you, this past year, I've learned a lot about deliverability because of the situation we had. I didn't know a lot about it beforehand. It's something that is on the back end that you don't realize how important it is until you really have a problem. But then you times all those factors that impact deliverability by all of the different ISPs, and it just makes deliverability super, super hard. So I'm going to talk about a situation where our brands got blacklisted this past year. The worst of the worst. So, the worst thing that could happen when it comes to deliverability happened to us. And it can really happen to any brand if you're not doing the right things. And then I'm going to talk about our road to recovery of how we made it back from kind of rock bottom. So a couple years ago, we switched CRM platforms. Not an uncommon thing to do, but it's a long process. You have to really take your data from one CRM platform to the other. There's a lot of transitioning and a lot of things that take place. So it took probably about a year to really pull all of that data into our new CRM platform. September 2018, I was told, so I was brand new to the company. We're talking 1 month in, and I was told by our business intelligence team who manages our consumer data that we had about 1 million consumers across all of our core brands floating in our data lake that had not yet been brought into our new CRM system. But the project was finally ready to push those in. So I thought, this is great. A million people is a lot of people. But I was also a little skeptical, and I asked all the right questions, like, okay, do we know information about these consumers? They are our own data. We sent emails to them before, but how long have they been active? So I asked all of those questions, and I got the green light on all of them. These are good consumers. We've emailed them in the past, and we need to just continue to email them. So I thought, okay, great. I'm going to just continue with our email plan. So October, we were just sending out our emails as planned. One particular email that's relevant in October, our brand Ortho, which is bug and pest control. So we sent an email out, open rates plunged. And when I say plunge, we're talking 3 to 5% open rates. So I instantly knew something was wrong, was a little worried. I checked kind of the metrics on the back end. We had a 15% hard bounce rate. That's bad. So I knew it had to do with the people that we had brought in from the data lake. So I thought, okay, well, now that we have all those hard bounces out, we should be good, right? Moving forward, let's IP warm in the month of November, and we're going to get back on track. It's okay. For us, during this time period of like September to December, January, it's actually off season for us. So we were lucky. We had the time to do the IP warming. So in November, I thought, let's start out really slow. We had an email that we were just going to start with 100 people a day, our most engaged and active folks, and then we warmed it through the entire month of November. And with that, we did see an improvement and increase in our open rates to the point where I thought, we're good. We are back on track. I'm feeling good. We are now at a high sending volume. Let's continue on as planned. In my head, I didn't even think about deliverability. It was something I wasn't super knowledgeable at the time, so I thought we were good. December, we sent a higher volume email out, and we saw the open rates go back down to 3%. And I thought, that didn't work. The whole IP thing, warming, it didn't work at all. What's going on? So talk to our CRM platform and ask them, hey, like our customer success manager has to know what's going on. You know, we did all this rewarming work. What is going on? Why are we back down? And she took a look and saw that we had been blacklisted. So the culprit was that one particular brand we sent an Ortho back in October. We sent another email to Ortho in November, and it just caused us to be blacklisted. So of course, that's kind of a big problem for us. But how did it actually impact us as a brand? So a little background about how we have our sending domains set up. And this is really beneficial to us 99% of the time because Tomcat, Ortho, Roundup, those are brands that we don't send to on a really regular cadence because that's the cadence that people want to be talked to for those brands. So being on the same shared domain as Scott's and Miracle-Gro, which we send a lot more frequently, helps with keeping them warm. So it really is a huge benefit for us most of the time. In this situation, it was bad because Ortho now brought down all of the rest of the brands. We were blacklisted for all of them. So just to show you the data of how this impacted us, if you look at the top graph, the inbox placement, that blue line is actually Ortho, their inbox placement, and then you can also see how it impacted those other brands that were on the shared domain. And so we were blacklisted on one primary blacklist and 22 secondary blacklists. So we had a lot of work ahead of us. And then you can also see the correlation of the open rates during that time period. So this graph shows September through January. We just kind of kept going downhill. So we needed a troubleshooting process put in place to fix this because we thought IP warming was working and it didn't. So if you ever face this in the future, this is what I recommend. One, if you're seeing open rates super, super low, 3 to 5%, check first to see if you're blacklisted. If you're not, then I kind of would do the next two things in conjunction with each other. So check your subscriber list. Are you sending to the right people? Did you accidentally send to the wrong list? Are you sending to active people? And then in that same process, rewarm your IP by sending to those most actively engaged consumers starting out. And then finally, if that isn't working, check your DMARC records. Connect with your DNS, the team that puts together your DNS records, and make sure that those are verified, confirmed, and good. And if all else fails, find yourself a deliverability expert that knows what's going on. For us, we partnered with eDataSource, and it has changed a ton for us. We've really learned a lot. We've been educated on more about what deliverability is, how to improve our deliverability, how to prevent this disaster from ever happening again. And it's really been changing, like life-changing for us as a brand. So how did we get through the road of recovery? So showing here September through August of this, so September of last year through August of this past year, you can see the first pink lines are really, that's when we brought in those million consumers that were not really good quality folks. And then December is when we got blacklisted. So you can see the correlation of inbox placement and open rates and how we went down during that period of time. The thing about getting blacklisted is it takes a lot of time to get not only off the blacklist, but get yourself back into a good positive reputation. So it took us 4 to 6 months. And then you can see kind of April, we started going up in terms of our inbox placement and our open rates. And that was across all of our brand. So season for us is March and April. That's when we're selling lawn care. That's when we're selling gardening products. So it had a big impact on our emails not being delivered 100% during that time period. But as time moved on, we continued to do all of the right things. We cut out probably 70% of that 1 million consumer list that kind of came in back in September, and it's actually what helped improve our open rates and inbox placement over time. So in conclusion, there's 3 main takeaways I want you guys to remember. 1, always use clean lists. Make sure your data is clean. Never ever buy a list. I'm sure nobody in here does that, but always use a clean list and make sure it's your own data. One thing that we do is we always send to people who are most active and engaged. For us, and it's different for every brand, for us, being a seasonal business and people thinking about lawn care really kind of once a year, we do send our active list is 52 weeks. But in off-season, when we know people are not engaging with us as often, we do kind of dial that window down to a shorter period of activity. And then one other thing with that, what's really great about our CRM system is it automatically removes people who have hard bounced. After 1 hard bounce, you're out. We're not sending to you still. And if you have 3 soft bounces in a row, you also get removed. So that's an auto way of helping to get people who are not good quality in your list out. IP warm after off-season. And this isn't relative to everybody. For us, we are a very seasonal business, and we do have to IP warm every year in our off-season. We're in the process of that right now to get ready for January, February. But this could be relevant to other brands in that you might be sending the same send volume throughout the year, but during your holiday period, you're really ramping up your send volume. So during that time, there's a really good opportunity to slowly warm your IP so that you're ready when that Black Friday hits and you're not going to have any deliverability issues. It's just a best practice. And finally, be proactive by testing. And what I mean by this is we leverage a lot of third-party tools. So eDataSource, we use their design tracker to make sure our subject lines and our content isn't spammy. We also leverage Litmus to make sure we're rendering properly across everything. Because if you're not rendering properly, you could get some spam complaints. And then the one thing that I always double, triple check is making sure your unsubscribe link breaks. I've been on a panel before where I've had the unsubscribe link break and it's a disaster. Not only is it a compliance issue, but you get people hitting the spam complaint button and then you're impacted with your deliverability.
That's it. Great. Amanda, stay right there. Thank you so much.